We need to begin by clarifying what a worldview is. If you're unfamiliar with the term, the Cambridge Dictionary Online describes a worldview as a way of thinking about the world. Some examples used in a phrase would be, our worldview is quite different from those in the BC era. The people were often astonished to discover that not everyone shares their worldview. The book analyzes how his time in the army shaped his worldview. Her worldview was secular and liberal. Or, there's a sharp difference between our worldviews, but on this idea, we are in agreement. There are a couple established worldviews when it comes to environmentalism. The first one is called Western worldview, or could also be called planetary management worldview. The other one is called the deep ecology or earth-centered worldview, sometimes referred to as the wisdom worldview. I will share more about each one on the next 2 slides. When we talk about the Western or planetary management worldview, it's more concerned with economics and societal standards or quality of life functioning, and falls under the category of anthropocentrism, which means human-focused. Basically, the questions asked under this worldview could be, what is in the people's best interests? Or, money makes the world go round is the idea. The value of something is earned and able to be shown in a number. The ethical theory this worldview would fall into alignment with is called utilitarianism, which asks, what would make people the happiest? This worldview focuses on self-preservation rather than preservation of nature. On the other hand, the deep ecology, or earth-centered, also known as the wisdom worldview, believes that all of nature has inherent value, meaning intrinsic, or that its existence makes it worthy of respect, and that resources are not inexhaustible, but they're limited. This is where sustainability comes into play. Humans should care for and learn from nature, as well as protect it for many reasons. The priority with the wisdom environmental worldview is the planet and its best interest are just as important, if not more, than humans are. It acknowledges the fact that humans are not the only living species on the planet Earth, and so we need to care for them or at least regard them as important. It could be described as the preservation of nature rather than the preservation of society's current operational undertakings. The deep ecology worldview falls under the category of biocentrism, which, according to the Britannica Online Encyclopedia, is an ethical theory considering all life deserves equal moral consideration or having equal value. In this slide, I'm just going to review the environmental philosophical theoretical concepts of the terms anthropocentric and biocentric. As mentioned in previous slides, anthropocentrism is the view or belief that human beings are superior to all other organisms. Its focus is mainly on humans. Animals in the natural world are merely backgrounds. So the human perspective is the most important, and any other issues take second place. We could also describe psychology as anthropocentric, and I'll get more into that later. Unlike anthropocentrism, biocentrism places greater importance on living components of the environment, hence the prefix bio, quote-unquote, means life, and centrism, quote-unquote, means central. It focuses on the encompassing natural world. According to biocentrism, all living things in the world are of equal importance. For example, an animal's life is as important as a human's life. Moreover, when considering an environmental issue like climate change, biocentrism would focus on how climate change influences living things by analyzing the migration of species, population of species, or change in its habits. Moreover, biocentrism does not consider chemical or geological elements of the environment to be as important as the living things in it. An example of a branch of study for anthropocentrism would be psychology because it focuses on human behavior. And an example of a branch of study for biocentrism would be marine biology because it has nothing to do with studying humans, but rather life in the ocean. I wanted to include this third philosophy because this presentation is intended to contain my personal viewpoint, and I chose this concept to be most fitting with my worldview as an environmentalist. Ecocentrism, not to be confused with egocentrism with a G, is a perspective that places importance on the ecosystem as a whole. It considers both living components and non-living components as equally important, especially when making decisions regarding the environment. For example, the quality of the soil is just as important to me as the health of a tiger. I created a pie chart to show a visual example comparing my choices of alignment in personal viewpoints with the different environmental worldviews, as you can see. The purple represents ecocentrism and takes up half, leaving the other half to be occupied with a perfect balance of anthropocentrism represented with brown and biocentrism represented with blue, each taking up a quarter of the entire chart. To put that in percentages, I, Shelby Steele, align with ecocentrism 50%, anthropocentrism 25%, and biocentrism also 25%. Another pie chart here shows my preferences of the Western worldview and the wisdom worldview, which are very different. While I do recognize the validity of Western values and the importance of capitalism in societal economical management, I personally value the planet and environmental health concerns above the comparably trivial human concerns, which are ever-changing. Of course, human survival is important, but those basic needs are not much in number compared with the rest of society's quote-unquote needs. The needs of Mother Earth are more constant than the quote-unquote needs of an unstable or hedonistic world system. Not to mention, one of humanity's basic needs is their environment to be in the best possible condition in order to thrive in alignment with anthropocentrism's utilitarian values, right? So because I accept the wisdom worldview more, the pie chart's percentages here show my preference for it in purple, far outweighing the Western worldview in blue at 80% versus 20%. To say that in a fractional term, it would be 4 versus 1. I do think that the future will be more eco-friendly as renewable energy becomes more mainstream, and the momentum for environmental public awareness and education, of course, covering a variety of issues such as climate change, extinction of species, rise in sea levels, more catastrophic weather events happening, even health or economics, statistics, clean drinking water, etc., would convince people to elect more green-friendly leaders. I see that the world governments are realizing the need to acknowledge and implement better organization as well as enforcement of environmental health practices for the overall sustainability of society. This would bring about future changes towards a deep ecology worldview, which is what I personally align with. It's a hopeful prediction, and I'm pretty confident about seeing it come true in the near future. I know there are some Americans who staunchly value money over environmental health. However, I think they're willingly negligent to the fact that the environment supports us more than we care to admit, or they care to admit, and that it's not unlimited. I would tell them to open their eyes and see that we need to care for our environment, and if you can't do that, at least don't ruin it even more than you already have been doing. Put a stop to the disdain for anything other than accumulating money. In summary, Earth is vital, that's a fact. Therefore, it should not be left out of one's worldview. Her aesthetic beauty is so great that she has been deemed the gem of the universe because it is literally that brilliant in the grand scheme of things. The Earth doesn't need humans, but humans need the Earth. As an environmentalist, my current worldview is deep ecology ecocentrism. It is also known as the Earth-centered or wisdom worldview. Here are the resources that I used to get content for this presentation in APA citation format. These are more references, mainly composed of really nothing other than some images I got online, giving credit to the original owner, copyright. Thank you for your time.